My best friend died. Then her mom showed up saying my husband fathered her kid. Now he's claiming he was roped at our party. I made him leave the house until I figured out what I'm going to do. My husband is 36 and I am 33, and my best friend since elementary school, who I'll call Alice, passed away in February from cancer. Opie wrote the post in August. She had a 2-year-old daughter who went into the custody of her mom, Alexis, after she passed away. Last month, Alexis showed up on our doorstep unannounced, telling my husband he needs to take responsibility for his child and either take custody or start finally paying child support. She says that Alice had told her when her daughter was born who the father was, but didn't want anything to do with him. To answer the inevitable, Alice was a traveling nurse and made a lot of money, which is the only reason I can think of for why she didn't go for child support. During this conversation, my husband had the worst panic attack he's ever had, so we had to end the conversation before I could get more details. My husband's story is, I don't even know. He said that Alice's daughter is probably his, but that it isn't what I think. Almost 3 years ago, we threw a large housewarming party as we just moved into our dream home after I finally finished residency and was set to make real money for once. Alice was in town and set to be at the party, but I was called into work before she got there. I didn't get back till after 3 a.m. The party was winding down. My husband was passed out upstairs, and Alice had already left the party, which at the time I did find strange as we hadn't seen each other in months. My husband claims he woke up in the middle of the night to Alice on top of him, but he passed out again before he could say anything. He claims he never told me because he was worried I wouldn't believe him, which I don't know if I do. He showed me some texts he sent his best friend the next day asking for his advice about him thinking someone roped him, but if he cheated, he could have had that conversation as evidence, especially since he never said Alice specifically. Ever since the party, he has been very distant with Alice, and after she had her daughter, he would even find excuses not to be around the house when she would visit at all. I don't know if that's because he cheated, or if Alice did actually rope him and this was his trauma response. Honestly, Reddit, I don't know what to do. I've known Alice since we were children, and she had never come across as that kind of person. But I've also known my husband for over a decade, and he's not once ever given the inclination of a cheater. He's an attractive guy, and I've seen the looks he gets at the gym, and he's never even given more than a glance. What the hell should I do? How do I figure out what the truth is here when Alice isn't even around to defend herself? She never even implied she liked my husband, let alone want to sleep with him. I told my husband he needs to get a DNA test before anything is decided on the child's part, but in the meantime, he needs to move out while I think about what I'm going to do here. Best comments. Opie answers some questions that makes her reach a conclusion. Did Alice change behavior after that night? Anything at all? Not that I noticed. She'd always been at least a little standoffish towards him, as she thought I could do better. The first time she visited after she gave birth, she asked where he was since he wasn't home for the first time, but she never asked again after that. Obviously, DNA test. His story does sound wild, but he wouldn't be the first. Is he someone who tends to drink a lot, at times, /blackout? Not at all. He rarely drinks, and generally only at parties which at our ages are few and far between. He works a tough and stressful job, so I figured once he was buzzed he laid down and fell asleep, not that he had drank more than normal or anything like that. Last thing, do you think she'd take to the grave that she had an affair or she roped her husband? I hadn't thought about that actually, thank you. That's a good point. She always thought I could do better than him, so if it was an affair, you'd think she would have told me on her deathbed at least. You say you don't think she would have been the type of person to rope your husband, but would she be the type of person to sleep with her best friend's husband consensually? I don't know, and that's part of the problem, I guess. I went through everything with her, so to reconcile the woman I knew for most of my life with someone that would betray me in either way is so hard. Based on what you said here, I'm inclined to side with your husband. Men are never taken seriously when sexually assaulted and marriages ended for coming forward. The fact you kicked him out says you would have automatically believed your friend, and just doing that may doom the marriage. I could never forgive my wife for that if I was in his place. If he was assaulted and told you the next day, would you believe him and ever trust him again, or would you believe your friend? Her actions show she did something wrong, and his actions show he actively avoided her at all costs from that day forward. I truthfully don't know if I would have believed him had he told me the next day. I think part of the reason I'm struggling right now is because I only have his side of the story. I spoke to a friend about it, and she suggested that maybe Alice coming over with her daughter was her attempting to get him to come clean, so she wouldn't have to take the blame for their affair all herself. Who did Alice say was the father of the baby? She told me it was a man she met while in another state for work. Short-term fling. Why does he need to move out? Your friend roped him, and he even texted his friend the next day. It's possible he didn't even realize it was your friend. You also only have her mom saying it's his child. Your horrible friend did this. You should be supporting your husband. I needed space to think. It's only temporary for a few days at most. I've been trying to think on this for the past 2 weeks, but it's impossible to do when he's here, as all I can see when I look at him is my best friend. Dealing with her death the first time was hard enough. Adding in the new feelings of betrayal, if it was an affair, or betrayal and disgust if it was rope, are making it even harder. How am I supposed to work through that and also figure out if I believe my husband when those emotions are clouding my judgment? Honestly, I'd be inclined to believe your husband. Sending the text preemptively to cover his cheating seems like a stretch, and it makes more sense that they are genuine. I feel like faking everything else just implies an excessive level of manipulation, and it sounds like you don't have a reason to believe he'd do that. Also, him not telling you because he thought you wouldn't believe him sounds like it might not be an entirely incorrect judgment at this point, as the first thing you did was throw him out of the house. I'm starting to feel that way too, and I think I might be a terrible wife. Wait, I get that you need to process all this, but you've told the potential victim of SA that he needs to leave his home, his safe place, and you, his safe person. I think you've jumped the gun a bit here and shunned your life mate who may have been roped. I'm starting to realize I've made a terrible mistake. Women go decades without admitting when they are roped because of fear of people not believing them. I'm going to be honest, men will go twice as long and preferably take it to the grave, because almost always and automatically told it's not even possible for a man to be roped. I know you have to go on instinct, but his story makes sense with the texts he sent his friend. He also would hope to never be around this woman again, which is why he made himself scarce after the fact. If he's a smart man like you claim, he would not have wanted you alone with Alice ever, because she could reveal the affair. He would have tried to separate your bond. Instead, he hid because she couldn't really say she roped him. You say she wasn't a fan of him at all. She thought you could do better. So, why wouldn't she spin it as he came onto her? It's because she was the one in the wrong. Thank you. I don't know what it is about this part, but it just clicks with me. You're absolutely right. With her level of disdain, if it was an affair, she certainly would have told me, if only to separate us, especially on her deathbed. I was in the room with her, holding one of her hands. She obviously took this to her grave, and the only reason she would is if she roped him. Thank you. Update number 1. Update wrote in the same day of the first post. After talking with you, I've come to the realization that my husband is being truthful. My best friend roped him. Several people pointed out that with Alice not liking my husband, if it was an affair, she would have told me when she was dying, if only to separate us. You're absolutely right. I was there, in the room while she passed. I held her hands for days. We talked about so much. If it was just an affair, she would have told me. But if she roped my husband, she wouldn't have said a word. That's the type of thing horrible people take to the grave. I've also come to the realization that I made a terrible mistake asking my husband to leave for a few days while I gather my thoughts. Not to make excuses, but losing my best friend to cancer, a long cancer fight at that, was brutal. To say that I was devastated wouldn't do it justice. That it happened only 6 months ago, I'm still feeling it every day. To have this thrown on me? It's like I'm losing her all over again. Either she betrayed me and F my husband, or she betrayed me and roped my husband. Not only have I lost her, but now I've lost the good memories, an entire lifetime worth. It was impossible for me to look at him and not also see her and be struck with the horror and realization of that loss all over again. I felt I needed to be able to break down, grieve, and think without the fresh wave of loss I got every time I saw him. It was wrong of me to ask him to leave. You're right, though, and as of a few minutes ago, I've righted this wrong. I called my husband, I apologized, told him I believe him, and begged him to come home. He'll be here in half an hour at most, and I'm going to support my husband the way I know he would have supported me. I've been an off and on Reddit user for several years, and sometimes the advice given on subreddits like these can be a bit hit or miss, but today you guys did good. You've helped me realize not only that I was wrong and being stupid at that, but that I was hurting the person that needed me the most. I was selfish. I have no idea what we're going to do as far as the potential daughter is concerned, but I can assure you we'll deal with it together. It's going to take a lot of time and probably a lot of therapy to grieve this new loss. I feel numb now, as though I'll never cry again. My best friend roped my husband, which means she was no friend of mine. She flaunted it, coming to my house, sitting with me, and gabbing. She brought her child here, trying to rub it in his face, right in front of me. She tortured the man I loved, and I was an unknowing party to it. I feel sick to my stomach over how many times she came over, just to hold it over him. I'm honestly at a loss on how to make that up to him. If you all have any ideas, please feel free to give them to me. I think I'll need all the help I can get. Tomorrow I'm going to take a leave of absence from work, just until we can figure out our next steps, and we can get our heads on straight. Thank you, everyone. Update number 2. 7 months and 8 days after the last update. I've received a lot of messages asking for an update, so I've decided to finally sit down and write one out. I want to start by telling you all that I love and trust my husband. My reaction to ask him for space to think in retrospect was wrong, but at the time I didn't know what to think. It was a combination of losing my best friend again and also the fear that I was losing my husband that set me spiraling. Again, it was a mistake to ask him to leave, and I did rectify that in the end. Now for the update. As mentioned in the original post, I did take a leave of absence from work, and we spent a long time just being together, talking, reaffirming our love for one another, and figuring out what to do next. We of course spoke with a lawyer, and my husband was very adamant about not having anything to do with the child, but was willing to offer financial support as needed. We agreed to do a DNA test immediately to prove paternity, and then go from there. Didn't know you could buy tests on Amazon, but with only a few weeks processing it was the easiest path forward, since Alexis lives hours away. To everyone's surprise, Alice's daughter is not my husband. We ended up testing twice, both very, very definitive. The first test we performed ourselves as mentioned, and another after Alexis refused to believe the first test and took my husband to court for child support. For a single second this whole thing made me second-guess if my husband was roped, that this could have been her way of forcing my husband to admit to an affair, but after talking with Alexis, I don't think that was the plan. Alexis says that Alice told her my husband was the father under strict confidence, demanding that she never, ever tell me or my husband. We were only ever to be told if Alexis died before Alice's daughter was old enough to take care of herself, so that she wouldn't end up in foster care. The only reason Alexis came to us then, instead of keeping that secret, is because Alice's life insurance wasn't being released yet, and she was out of options. She also felt I should know my husband and her daughter had had an affair. This all reaffirms in my mind that Alice did rope my husband, with the expectation of getting pregnant with his child. She obviously had other partners at the time, since one of them fathered her daughter, but no one knows who. It's clear to me that Alice believed it was my husband. I did suggest Alexis upload a sample to Ancestry, see if any matches pop up, but as Alice traveled all over for work, I don't know that anything will ever come of that. In truth, I've washed my hands of the situation. Alice did enough damage, and I don't particularly plan to be around for any more. My husband and I have gone through a lot of counseling and will likely continue for a while. This whole situation damaged us both, my husband more obviously, and I don't think we'll fully heal for a very long while. To answer a few questions. No, sadly, there isn't a hidden diary or text to explain what the F was going on. My husband and I are not getting divorced. He understands why I reacted the way I did and has been strong when I was weak before. I've spent the past 7 months being strong while he was weak, so we're considering the whole thing even. We're still madly in love, and plan to be together for a long time still. More on this. No, we will not be adopting Alice's child. Even she had been my husband's, we would not have been adopting the child. Ultimately, I thank Reddit for setting me straight. There was a massive outpouring of support and corrective advice. To say I got a slap in the face would be a descriptive but apt way to put it. I needed it then, and I thank you for it. To say that you may have saved my marriage is an understatement. I do, however, have some good news. During my leave of absence, while my husband and I rediscovered what makes us love each other the most, I got pregnant. We're expecting our first baby, a girl, in a little over 3 months, and my husband and I are ecstatic. And no, we will not be naming her after my dead ex-best friend. Best comments. Honestly, I just think she wanted a child. She was sleeping with multiple men, and while drunk, she didn't miss the opportunity to have another shot on getting pregnant when she saw your husband out. That couldn't have been all. She could have even bought sperm from a bank. Her allegedly roping OP's husband shows that she has something deeper in just wanting to have the child. Whether it was a secret crush on OP's husband or hatred or envy of OP, the answer died with Alice.